Ready when you are.
Okay. Hi everybody, welcome to Fried Chicken 101. I'm going to show you how to make the best fried chicken you've ever had. You want super crunchy on the outside and you want super tender and juicy on the inside. The three pillars are going to be your brining, which is immersing the chicken into a liquid of sorts. So it can either be a salt water and herb brine, it can be buttermilk and hot sauce, which is what I prefer, and what we're going to do today. Or you can simply put it in milk, and brining methods and times all vary, but I'm going to show you a very quick way to do that. So the second thing is resting your chicken. So once you get the flour coating on the chicken, you want to let it rest and let it sort of aerate, let air come through. We're actually going to use this little guy, which is going to allow our chicken to rest, and it's going to allow it to let all the flour adhere and really cling onto that chicken so that you can get a really nice crispy mouthfeel on that. And then also what it does is it brings the chicken up to almost room temperature, close to room temperature. And what that's going to help during the frying process. It's not going to bring down the temperature of the oil too much whenever you immerse it, which can leave you ending up with really soggy, inedible chicken. So let's get started. What we're going to do is start with the brining because we want to get the bird in its bath as soon as possible. We're going to start with the Crystal hot sauce, which is my favorite. You can use a Frank's or a Pete's hot sauce, Frank's Red Hot. Tabasco I don't recommend. It has a really vinegary flavor to it, and you don't really want to impart that into the chicken. You just want to pack in as much flavor as you can in a short amount of time, and this will allow you to do that. We're going to add 3 eggs to the hot sauce, and then we're going to add in about 1/3 of a cup of buttermilk to this whole mixture. Doesn't seem like a lot of liquid, but once we get the chicken sort of doused in the house seasoning that I'll talk about in just a few minutes, it will all be nice and immersed in there. We're going to add, like I said, about 1/3 of a cup of buttermilk. You're going to pour it in, and it's going to kind of turn this sort of orangey pink color, and it's going to smell like the hot sauce, but don't be afraid because it's really going to just pack in a little bit of flavor, a nice punch, if you will, because we're doing a very quick brine, which we don't have a lot of time, I think, in New York City. Most of us work, we're all time starved, and this is a really good way to get your chicken. The next step, what we're going to do is actually add the house seasoning, which you have in your packet, but basically it's a combination of garlic powder, salt, and pepper. And it really does add, in a very short amount of time, a really nice punch of flavor. Again, it's about adding depth of flavor in a really short amount of time. So essentially, we're going to douse the chicken really well. And if you think that it looks like too much, it's probably not, okay? And you just want to keep one hand on the raw chicken at all times and don't contaminate your bottle of the house seasoning. I'm just going to lay it into the brine just like that. And as soon as we get all of these pieces nice and covered, we're going to let this mixture hang out for about 30 minutes, 45 minutes. This is really simple, you guys. It's one of those things where I think if you just saw it, which you're obviously taking the class now, see how easy it is, it's something that you would be more inclined to make at home on a regular basis. You're going to give your hands a wash. We're going to cover the fried chicken and let it hang out. Now, while we're letting this hang out, we're going to get the flour mixture together. And essentially, you want approximately 3 cups. Give or take, it's okay. You can just sort of do this with your knife. We're going to add 1.5 teaspoons of black pepper to this. And I usually like to use a nice coarse black pepper because it really shows up better on the chicken when you bite into it. So 1.5 teaspoons to the 3 cups of flour, and voila. That's essentially your mix. So keep in mind that you've got the flavors of the garlic, the black pepper, and the salt already in the brine. And you're just adding a little extra. You want to get it nice and incorporated in here. Doesn't take but just a couple of minutes, a couple seconds. And then what I like to do, because I like mine spicy, I love really, really spicy chicken, is to take the cayenne pepper. And you can add as much or as little as you want. And I will tell you, if you like things spicy, I go with like the 4 to 5 tablespoon range. Some people really don't like that much, so you can go a little bit easier with it. But I like my flour mixture to be a little bit pink from the pepper. And again, this is where you as students get to add your own unique experiences, your own flavor profiles, whatever it is that you really like. This is your opportunity to do that. So if you want to have an Indian flavor, add some curry, add some yellow curry. If you want just color and you don't really want it to taste like much, add some paprika. You can do really whatever you want here. But a word of caution, if you add in fresh herbs, you really want to do that in the brining portion, not here, because they'll burn. As they're frying, those things tend to burn first. And then, how many of you have ever eaten Popeye's fried chicken or Kentucky Fried Chicken, which has, I know that they're kind of awful, but they're amazing. The nice crispy crunchy pieces, the really large pieces that are on the chicken. The way that we're gonna cheat that, the way that we're going to achieve that is to do a little trick where you put in about 6 tablespoons of buttermilk. And you wanna start doing like this and running the flour through your fingers to break it up a little bit and create those nice, crunchy, what will be those nice, crunchy pieces. You don't want too large of the pieces or they'll be really sort of gummy. You just wanna break it up a little bit. So essentially, this is what it's gonna look like. You're gonna have pieces that are pretty even, fairly even, and it's gonna be ready as soon as the chicken is done brining. It's gonna be ready for the coating. Okay, so after we've brined and we've made our coating mixture, we're actually ready now to go ahead and get the chicken in there. One little trick that I've learned, and I sometimes abide by, but not always, is if you work with one hand for the wet ingredients, and then you flour with another hand, so that basically you don't end up with clumps of stuff on your fingers. So basically I'm gonna put the wet in like that. I'm gonna use this hand to coat. But listen, if this is your first time or even your first several times of making the chicken, if it's easier for you just to get in there with both hands, do it. Whatever makes it easier for you. And anyway, we can all wash our hands. This one is a Big Daddy. I think it needs another coating. Toss it around, give it a nice little toss. Again, don't be afraid. Don't be timid whenever you're using this, whenever you're applying the flour coating. And again, it's the resting game, so we're just gonna let it hang out for a little bit. 30 minutes is sufficient, 30 to 45 minutes. You can even do it up to an hour and a half. That kind of sounds a little bit crazy, but again, on some of these larger pieces, you really don't want them to be cold in the middle because they're not gonna cook as well. So the outside's gonna cook faster than the inside's gonna cook. Just remember that. So it's really important that we let it rest. So this brings us to the last of the 3 pillars. We had the brining, we had the resting, and now we have the frying. I really do prefer to use a peanut oil. It's a little bit more expensive, but the flavor is really a lot better to me than anything. But you know, if you don't want to spend the money, you can always do a vegetable oil. Crisco is fine. Cast iron is king whenever you're frying. It maintains a heat throughout the entire pan, so it really does help you with your oil temperatures not fluctuating too much. You can also use a stainless steel skillet. You can also use aluminum. It's up to you. I mean, I've even, one of the families that I cook privately for, they have a wok, and I use the wok to fry their chicken in, but I prefer cast iron. We're gonna stick with this one because it's a little more shallow, and shallow frying is a little bit better bet that you're not gonna undercook the chicken. So essentially what that means is that you're going to immerse the chicken once the oil gets hot enough, and it's only gonna come about halfway up one side of the chicken. So then you're gonna flip halfway through. If you guys don't own a thermometer, you can do a quick little trick that always helps me know whenever the oil is gonna be ready. You just take some of that flour mixture that you had, and if you drop it in, and that piece automatically starts to float like this, then your oil is pretty much ready, okay? So you just wanna remove that. And let's get to frying some chicken. But if you can see, there's like a nice light fry going on here. That's really what you want. You don't want grease splattering all over everything because that probably means that your oil temperature is too high. You can actually take the lid, and this is something that my mother, my brilliant mother does. is she covers her chicken at this point. So it's steaming the chicken, which means that it's going to be cooked all the way through. If you have any doubts about whether or not you're going to end up with bloody chicken, which is the worst thing ever, then you can always cover it for a few minutes. Set your timer in the kitchen for 15 minutes, and that way you have some sort of frame of reference for how long you're actually frying. So what we're going to do, so that you can see what's going on, is we're going to take the lid off, and actually you can start to smell the chicken at this point, and it really does start to smell really amazing. You can start to notice a couple of the smaller pieces, like a nice little golden brown. Don't want to play with it too much, but you don't want to let it get too brown on any one side. So if you need to give it a little flip, you can do that. If you have a gas range, it's really better to keep it on about 5. I usually turn it up as far as the temperature of the gas goes, on 6 to get it nice and going. And then as soon as I sort of do that little test with the flour to see if it's ready to fry, I'll turn it down to 5, in between 5 and 6, and it's a really good medium-high temperature to cook on. You want to use tongs for the chicken that's raw, and to take it out, you want to use a fresh pair of tongs because you don't want to contaminate and end up with sick guests. On the medium to large pieces, you want to fry them anywhere between 8 to 10 minutes a piece on either side. You can go a little bit longer, 12 minutes, if it's a really large breast. And the smaller pieces, you'll notice, get done much, much quicker. So it really depends, again, on the size of the chicken, but a good rule of thumb is to give your chicken a good 13 minutes on the smaller pieces and a good 18 to 19 minutes on the really large pieces. And listen, the last thing that you want to do is serve raw chicken. I've actually had the temperature up too high on the oil before. It's been a while since I've done that, but it has happened before, and then you end up with really nice, beautiful looking chicken on the outside, but then on the inside it doesn't run clear. The juices don't run clear. There's blood. So what you can do, it's not all lost at this point. You just basically would go to the oven at that point, and you would let it bake at around 350 for about 20 minutes. And then you still maintain that crunchy texture, but you've alleviated the problem of having bloody chicken on the inside. So we're ready to take out some of the smaller pieces. And again, I'm gonna switch tongs because you really want to have fresh, clean tongs. And that's really it. Really easy, and I think anybody that's watching this can understand that this can be made in your own kitchen, no matter how big or how small. And I think what better way to entertain at home with something that people love so much.